thank you all for being here today. Wow, what an amazing first event for us as Amplify is honored to now take on the storied tradition of Venture Connectors. Those that don't know, my name is Larry Horn. I am the CEO of Amplify Louisville. We're the state-sponsored entrepreneurial support organization for the greater Louisville area. But I'm excited about today having this group here. And so I wanted to introduce our esteemed panelist or guest. First, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Bryce. He's gonna hate this, by the way. A true champion of the entrepreneurial ecosystems, community growth, and living a life of purpose. As the founder of Access Ventures, Render Capital, and the Louisville Community Fund. Bryce has pioneered initiatives like the First Dollar Initiative and the nation's very first We Funder Match Fund. His leadership in creating the U.S.'s first agriculture accelerator in Louisville has marked him as an innovative entrepreneur and venture capitalist. Put your hands together and welcome Bryce Butler. I joked with Bryce, his intro may be longer than the mayor's, and we should probably be more think about that next time. Well, please join me in welcoming Mayor Craig Greenberg. Mayor Greenberg is a proud Louisvillian husband, father, and entrepreneur, just look down Main Street, who believes in thinking big, working hard, and making things happen. So you're right at home, Mayor. Mayor Greenberg is committed to moving Louisville in a new direction by focusing on key priorities that support the values of Louisville's families, including public safety, affordable housing, economic development, universal pre-K, yay, for all 3- and 4-year-olds and more. A proud graduate of Jefferson County Public Schools and the University of Michigan, go blue, nice victory, and Harvard Law School. Mayor Greenberg was an attorney before helping launch and lead 21C Museum Hotels. He's a former board member of the University of Louisville, and now, this is one of my favorite things, and is now a co-owner of the Ohio Valley Wrestling, which is amazing. Mayor Greenberg has been married to his wife, Rachel, for 24 years, and they have 2 sons, Daniel and Benjamin. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome the Louisville's 51st mayor, Mayor Craig Greenberg.
That was quite the introduction. Thank you, Larry. Thank you for having us. This is great, and I'm honored and privileged to be here with the mayor to talk entrepreneurship, economic development. We only have 30 minutes, so we're going to get to it because we want to have time for questions from you all as well. So,
great.
So Mayor Greenberg, pretty much a softball. You got a lot of entrepreneurs and investors in the room, business leaders. Can you think of one story in your background as a business leader that just kind of reminds you of, or pictures in your mind, the value and the benefit of being a leader, an entrepreneur, and the fact that like business is where it happens. It's where people show up. It's where they kind of bring their full selves on a daily basis. Like, do you have an example from your past where that was true for you?
Well, I think in many ways. First of all, thank you all very much for having me. It's great to be with you all, and I'm really excited to continue to work with you all and to have this room continue to grow and grow and grow over the coming years as more and more people are focused on being entrepreneurs and supporting the entrepreneurial ecosystem that we have here in Louisville, and as more people start businesses here in Louisville. So it's great to be with you all. But one thing in business is you have to make decisions quickly, and you have to live with the consequences of those decisions, and you need to be comfortable making decisions when you might not have every last piece of information that you need, but you need to rely on some combination of facts, advice from others, colleagues, gut, previous experiences, et cetera. And every day when I was CEO of 21C Museum Hotels, certainly made a lot of decisions. And I think that was great preparation for what I'm doing now as mayor. And I know that every entrepreneur, every business leader has very similar experiences as well. But just the need to make prompt decisions I find to be incredibly helpful. Even if you make the wrong decision, as all of us do, being able to pivot, learn, and make new decisions to move in a different direction is incredibly helpful.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I asked that question because I think the people in this room really see the innovation economy, the entrepreneurship, the entrepreneurs, the investors here as a vital part of economic development. And so for yourself, as you think about your economic development plan, how do you see entrepreneurs as vital to that strategy and to our overall success as a region?
I think it's critical. I think it certainly, without a doubt, is the future of our city. When you think about some of the biggest companies that are here in Louisville today, they were started by Louisville entrepreneurs. When you think about companies like Brown-Forman, over 100 years ago, I think, or Humana, less than 100 years ago, but these were originally startup companies. that are now giant employers that are so important to the future of our city. And so we need to continue to support and invest in entrepreneurs and provide and have a city where entrepreneurs want to live and grow businesses. I am passionate about entrepreneurism. I started my first business when I was in high school, just after 16. A friend and I started a grocery delivery business called the Errand Boys. I was actually thinking about this morning. I don't think I've ever talked about that in my 2 or 3 years in public life before, but that was the first business that I started. I loved being an entrepreneur. I loved the experiences that I had in business before becoming mayor. I love still being a co-owner of Ohio Valley Wrestling. I'm the father of an entrepreneur. My son, who's a junior in high school, has already started a business, and just it is the future of our city. And so from my perspective, some of the best things that we can do, that the city government can help do, are first create a quality of place where people want to live. And so right now, where you can start a business anywhere and people can live wherever they want, work wherever they want, we need to be a city where people want to live. And so that means investing more in our parks and our libraries. It's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about reinventing and reimagining the Belvedere and investing millions and millions of dollars in our park system so that all of our parks are the same quality as Waterfront Park or the parklands of Floyd's Fork. We need to be a place where people want to live. That also, there's so much more to that as well. We also need to continue partnering with our educational institutions, whether it's JCPS, whether it's U of L, Bellarmine, Spalding, Simmons College. We need to continue to strengthen the educational institutions that are here because so many entrepreneurs are coming out of those educational institutions. That's something the city can help with as well. And also, we need to do things to support capital. Right now, I'm going to Frankfurt tomorrow. And we have a very short but powerful legislative agenda for the General Assembly. One of the things we are asking the State General Assembly to do is to reinvest in some programs that provide capital to entrepreneurs. Commonwealth Seed Capital, Key Horse Capital. Those are programs that have been around for a long time. They've not gotten state dollars in forever. We need to turbocharge the amount of capital that's available here, and we're asking the state to help do that. We know that will benefit Louisville entrepreneurs. It will benefit entrepreneurs across the entire state. So those are a few of the things that we're starting to do. We have an entire plan that we just recently released called Growing Louisville Together. It's our economic development strategy, a lot of which is focused on entrepreneurism, on quality of place, on some of the things that we're talking about. We can get more into detail. If anyone wants to see a copy of that plan, they can look online, or Katie Lippman, who's been very involved in crafting that plan. Thank you very much, Katie, for all of your effort. As well as the entire team has some hard copies of that as well.
That's great. Well, you mentioned specifically, so we'll kind of pick that apart, capital as a need, and Key Horse and Commonwealth Seed, for example. If you look around Kentucky, I think gets an allocation about $15 million a year from the state budget to support investment in entrepreneurs. When you look at states around us, from Indiana at $200 million through IEDC, Ohio, Nashville, and Tennessee, what do you think your office can specifically do? Like, what are tactically some things that your office is able to do or think you're able to do in Kentucky to advocate for entrepreneurs to actually increase that? So what are some of those steps in Frankfurt?
Yes, so one, in addition to the initiatives I'm talking about, the other thing we're advocating for is there's a Kentucky Investment Fund tax credit that was around, and then it's sort of sunset because it didn't have any more tax credit authority. That is basically an incentive that gives the investors a tax credit directly for making specific venture capital investments in Kentucky companies. We're advocating for that to come back. Our proposal would generate about $200+ million of additional capital that would be invested in Kentucky-based startup companies, so we know that's critical. A couple other things that we can do that I haven't mentioned in addition to what I have is we can help support organizations like some that are represented here today that help people become entrepreneurs. You don't really learn how to become an entrepreneur in school. And for some people, the thought of just even knowing what a limited liability company is, or knowing how to create that, knowing even where to go to get a business bank account, to how to deal with the Secretary of State for the forms, who you should even call to get insurance, all of the basics that maybe many of us in this room take for granted, those are not things that you just know because you graduated from high school or went to college. And so there are organizations in town, nonprofit and for-profit entities that do this that we should continue to support to help more people become entrepreneurs, particularly people who have not had this kind of support or might not have had access to the business world in their life growing up to date. So that's why supporting nonprofit organizations that help people become entrepreneurs is so important. We'll continue to do that. The city continue to provide some of that funding. And then also the city ourselves, we buy a lot of things. The city makes a lot of investments, whether it's professional services, whether it's related to construction, whether it's buying office supplies, you name it. The city spends millions and millions of dollars every year. And we need to do a better job with our procurement plan and approach so that we support local businesses. We support local businesses, we support black-owned businesses, we support women-owned businesses, we support businesses by individuals that have been historically kept out of these business opportunities because they're small. Big businesses were all once small businesses. We need to support local small businesses. We need to support people who are entrepreneurs. The city can and must do a better job of that.
That's great. You know, so you're the mayor of Louisville. Louisville's a Kentucky city, but the Louisville MSA also extends into southern Indiana. So I think one of the things that also is unique about our area is that we're a bi-state region. And if you look across the country, some of the stuff that I've done with the Kauffman Foundation, there aren't really many regions where they actually have gotten the bi-state collaboration done right. What plans do you have to kind of add that as a part of your economic development strategy? What could your office do in Indianapolis to advocate for?
One-way bridges.
Well, that's, yeah. Okay. But when you think about, they have $200 million that they're investing. A friend of mine, part of Elevate Ventures, they just announced a new $3 million per year seed fund that they're investing. How do we get more of that state capital to what is about a third of our MSA, which is just right across that river right there?
Yeah, so first, I have not been exposed to too many options of where like either side of the river is poaching from one another. I think we know that their side there's a lot that what happens in southern Indiana helps Louisville, and a lot of what happens in Louisville certainly helps drive southern Indiana. And so we are one region, we all should be supportive of one another, but we are certainly competitive. And so I think you've named a few of the issues. The state needs to take a good hard look at what the state of Indiana is doing when it comes to incentives that are geared towards high growth companies, new companies, entrepreneurs, investment capital, Right now, our state's economic development incentives are primarily geared towards manufacturing and agricultural businesses, which are great. We should continue to be very strong in that area. Just look what it's done for things like the electric vehicle industry. We are going to be the electric vehicle capital of the country. That's amazing. That's great for entrepreneurs. But we also have to have incentives for STEM-based businesses, for lots of other businesses that might not have as many hard assets as currently are being incented by the state. And so that's one way that we need to compete with the entire state of Indiana, not just across the river. And then we just also need to be a great place to live. We need all of our public schools in Jefferson and Oldham and all the places where people live to be the best public schools in the country. We need to do, again, by having great parks, by continuing to invest in culture. There's not going to be another downtown Louisville in southern Indiana, I don't think. We need to make downtown Louisville the safest, greenest, cleanest, most vibrant, interesting, unique neighborhood in the entire city so that people want to live in downtown Louisville. Those are the sorts of things from quality place perspective that I think will keep us competitive.
I think another thing, too, would be around the investment capital. So there actually is poaching that does occur in Indiana and Kentucky because unfortunately the states are incentivized to set up businesses in Kentucky and in Indiana. And so entrepreneurs are constantly having to make a choice. Do I go after IETC money with a pipeline to 200 million or do I go after KSTC money with a pipeline towards 15? And so I think what does it look like for our region to begin to think about implementing things like zones of reciprocity like we have in higher education. You know, the fact that you can go to a southern Indiana school and pay in-state tuition because we figured out that this is a region, a bi-state region. What does it look like for KSTC and the IEDC to actually partner together to actually be able to co-invest in a deal because that business is residing somewhere within this region? I just think there is more as a region that we could be doing to bring both Indiana and Kentucky together.
Great suggestion.
I was curious, on the capital front, how could you leverage the office of the mayor? Because I think you've got a powerful brand and a powerful opportunity, new first administration, to attract capital from outside of our region. You know, capital, a lot of it is agnostic of place. Yep. And Centrifuge did this. They invested as an LP strategically in a lot of blue chip funds around the country to make sure that those investors were coming to their market to meet their entrepreneurs. What sort of thing could your office do to help attract new types of capital that don't necessarily reside here, but that many of our entrepreneurs need to meet?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're doing, which I think indirectly helps in this area, one of the things that came out of our Growing Louisville Together plan is when we were talking to folks around the country, when our economic development team, when GLI, when others we reached out to a lot of site selectors, businesses, lots of people around the country, and internally to Louisville as well. And what we found about the Louisville brand is when you ask people what do they think about when they think about Louisville, some people think about KFC, some people think about bourbon, some people think about the Kentucky Derby, some people maybe think about UPS, but a lot of people, particularly outside of Louisville, don't really think of anything. They've heard of Louisville, Kentucky, but there's nothing that really comes to mind. That's a challenge, but that's also an opportunity because the good news is they don't think it's a bad place, they just don't really know what to think. So we need to create a new brand for our city, a brand that is authentic, that reflects our city believes in and gets behind, and also that is something that the entire country and world gets to know. When you think of Louisville, this is the brand. And for a growing city like Louisville, we really need that. And I think that will help start putting us more on the map for a lot more reasons than we currently are. And so that will be helpful. That's one of the big initiatives that we're going to be doing over the coming months. Is through this economic development strategy. So that's one big thing, is to just be on the map. Yeah. And we need to find a lot of reasons for people to come visit Louisville. Like, we should use bourbon all that we can to get people to Louisville. All of the folks that invest capital, a lot of them like bourbon. We need them to come here. And even if they're not coming to look at any startup or any investment opportunity, Louisville needs to be in their mindset so that they're thinking about it when they do see opportunities that are with Louisville-based entrepreneurs. They're more interested in the opportunity.
Yeah. That's great. Okay,
and continuing to invest in our airport. Our airport has done a great job of increasing the nonstop flights to cities around the country. Dan Mann and his team at the airport are doing a great job. We need to continue to doing that, having nonstop flights to Boston, to San Francisco, getting more to places like Seattle, more places in Texas. All of that is going to continue to help because, I mean, that's just a real deal.
Yeah. So my last question, then I'll open it up to the group, but I was a little disappointed as a former Army officer that I didn't see anything about veteran entrepreneurs in your plan. So I'm sure there was in there. I'm sure it was meant to be in there. I'm just kidding. But well, what I wanted to say,
we are working on some.
I know you are. Okay. And that's why I wanted to ask you, because we do have Fort Knox, which is south of us, and at Fort Knox is Human Resources Command. And so if you don't know much about the military, the entire Human Resources Command for the U.S. military is down at Fort Knox. And a part of that is the transitions program, Army Transitions, which thousands of soldiers go through. 45% of soldiers start businesses. So what sort of plan do you have around kind of those other regional assets, such as Fort Knox? Or I would even add in there, many folks here have tried for years to go after corporations that have not participated as much in the ecosystem. Companies, I'll just name a couple, like Ford, and what was another one I had, and UPS. How do we start to engage some of these companies that are a part of our regional economy in what we're trying to build here within the innovation economy?
So I think on the veteran side, one way we're having some conversations with, I think involving our educational institutions is also going to be helpful on that. Yeah. So it's veterans, it's also people that maybe might be in the armed services during school that are coming out. I think all of those fall into the same category. We've got some initiatives going on. They're still pretty early conversations, but stay tuned on that. One of the ways that we're going to engage those companies that you just described is through a new economic development authority that we are planning to create as a result of the Growing Louisville Together plan that I mentioned. We are working within the first half of this year. We will unveil our plan to create a new, not city government, a new nonprofit organization that drives the economic development for the future of our city. And many of the organizations that you mentioned will be on that board, alongside entrepreneurs, alongside leaders of our educational institutions. So hopefully this will be a way to start bringing people even closer together, and some of that will happen organically as well. And so I think that, yeah, so that's one of the ways that we're doing it. Also, we have a city right now, not just me as mayor, but our entire administration. We have a Metro Council. I know Ben Reno Weber is here, Metro Council. Well, usually it's easy to spot Ben, but I don't know if it's the light. We're like in the back. Oh, you're in the back there. Okay, that's what you're hiding. You know, Ben's very shy. He likes to be in the back of the room. For anyone who knows Ben, knows that's a joke. But I mean, we have great entrepreneurs like Ben on Metro Council that are looking to not just support the private sector entrepreneurial community, but are also looking for ways to make our city government more entrepreneurial. I mean, some of the things that Ben is pushing our administration to do that we fully support are finding new sources of capital through Medicaid, for example. Entrepreneurs all love using other people's money. It should be no different from the city. If there are opportunities to leverage federal resources, we should be doing a better job of that in the city. And so one of the things that I wanted to leave you all with is if you all have ideas that you think the city can and should be doing things differently, to have a different way of thinking about something, our administration is all ears. Metro Council is all ears. We have no problem breaking the way that we have done things historically because there is a better way, a smarter way, a more efficient way, a more effective way to do things. So please be in touch and give us your good input.
That's great. And Mayor, I appreciate, using the power of your office to convene, I think is a powerful thing. And I love your passion for that. So please keep that up. What questions do you have in the audience for our mayor? Yes.
A question for you specific to ways that we can help entrepreneurs, particularly those from historically marginalized backgrounds, to access that very first round of funding. We have beautiful things like the First Dollar initiative that Access Venture has, and we have other things that can help with that at the very, very early stage. But when you get past that, there's a little bit of a gap in between how we access capital here. We also have Lead Funder and things of that nature, but is there a way, and a greater way of thinking about leveraging some city dollars, for example, Metco loans, things of that nature, that could help leverage non-diluted capital for these entrepreneurs to get their businesses going, that starts looking not at revenue before, not at the historical financials, but performance. Can we start looking at this in a way that brings training, leverage things like U of L, leverages things like Health Equity Innovation Hub and other resources to arm those entrepreneurs, but also give them an access to non-dilutive sources that looks forward instead of just historical?
No, that's a great point and a great suggestion. We're talking a lot about equity capital so far, but obviously debt or grants are also critically important to entrepreneurs that are starting businesses. And maybe there's something that we could do. If you have further ideas, let Ben or me know on that, more details. But maybe one thing as you were talking that came to mind is one of the things we're looking to do is to partner with U of L on an entrepreneurial development resource center. We're still talking about what that's going to look like. It will be both a physical space as well as programs. And maybe for companies that are participating in that, we can do something where there are other things the city has done where we have provided capital or sort of loan loss guarantees to encourage financial institutions to provide loans in the housing space, for example, where the city has agreed to take the first dollar risk to encourage certain types of home buyers to be first-time home buyers. Maybe we can use a model like that for some sort of new loan fund along the lines that you're talking about. That's maybe there's something there, but
well, there is some stuff to look at, like the revenue-based finance network. So revenue-based financing allows for that forward-looking financing. The Kauffman Foundation found that 82% of businesses have some form of non-traditional capital that help grow and sustain their business. So I do think it's something we need to look at. Some of that's going to require state regulation change as well. So KSTC right now is limited in the types of investments that it can do. So that could be something that we work on together, is getting the state to adjust and amend how it thinks about investment dollars. At the city level, Natalia, that's a great point. Could Metco get more creative beyond just traditional debt financing to help support entrepreneurs? It's a great point. What other questions? Up here.
Last mine.
I work for KSTC as well. And downtown Louisville is the bridge to our historically Black population. So how are you going to protect mom and pop shops in West Louisville and the communities over there so that way they can also thrive as entrepreneurs?
I think that's absolutely critical, not just protecting the shops that exist, but part of the problem in West Louisville is we don't have enough shops. We don't have enough people who live in West Louisville that own businesses in West Louisville. And so that's why we need to continue to partner with organizations like the Urban League, like AMP, like others that are working to help individuals who live in West Louisville or want to do business in West Louisville create, own, succeed with businesses located there. Whether it's retail shops that are starting to pop up. We need tons and tons more. Or whether it's businesses that could be located anywhere but choose to locate in West Louisville and create jobs for people who live in West Louisville, we need to do that. We're working on a project right now that will create a significant number of new jobs in West Louisville. One untapped resource in that area is something called the West End Opportunity Partnership, which some of you all might know about. But basically, 2 years ago, the state legislature passed, in essence, the 9 neighborhoods of West Louisville are a tax increment financing zone that mean that all new taxes that are generated in West Louisville over the next, now maybe 18 or 19 years, are going to be reinvested in West Louisville. And there's a board, the West End Opportunity Partnership Board, that controls the reinvestment of those funds. That organization should be a critical partner for anyone looking to start businesses in West Louisville. Whether it's debt, equity, grants, there's tremendous amount of flexibility that this organization has. It was seeded with $30 million, 10 from the state, 10 from the city, 10 from the private sector. There's going to be so much more on top of that with future tax revenues that are refunded. That money should be reinvested in entrepreneurs that live in West Louisville and are doing business there. So that could be a huge opportunity.
Well, Mayor Greenberg, thanks for your time.
One last thing. One other thing that I meant to say earlier that we also, this is not something that my office or city government can change, but that I'm hopeful changes with the conversation. We need some help from friends like Chris Otz, who's I know here is today, other members of the media to change we have a culture in Louisville where we look down upon business failures, and we need to change that. My guess, maybe not, but I know I certainly have failed in my life before. I failed publicly with business ventures like Museum Plaza. I tried to build a skyscraper right outside this window right here. It didn't work. It was a very public failure, but I'll tell you what, I learned as much from that 5-year experience as anything else I've ever done in my life. And the silver lining of that endeavor that didn't get built is that my partners and I ended up building 21C Museum hotels. Well, the growth of it, 21C existed, but we decided to grow that business. And we were able to grow that business and turn that into a tremendous success. There is so much opportunity and learning that comes from when people try to create a business and don't succeed. And instead of laughing or shunning those people or saying, oh, this didn't work, we can't finance that individual, we should be embracing those experiences, knowing that that is a stronger entrepreneur, a stronger leader who is going to take those learnings and is more likely to succeed the next time around. And so my suggestion to Chris is that every year, instead of celebrating all these great successes of everything that's happened in Louisville that are bright, shiny new objects, we should also have a Failure of the Year award, where we celebrate the greatest failure because of what it means for the future of our city, or what that entrepreneur has gone on to do since the project that didn't work. That might be the wrong name for the award, but you get the drift of what I'm talking about. Is we need to change the culture of our city to embrace people for taking risks, because if none of us take risks, this will be a very boring city. So we need to encourage more risk-taking in our city.
Well, with that, how can we help you? So who do we talk to? How do we get involved in what you're trying to build here?
Yeah, keep doing what you're doing. When you run into challenges that city government can help you overcome, whether it's things like permitting or doing business, let us know. If you have ideas for things that city government can be doing better, let us know. If you want to get involved, we have 700 spaces on 60 boards and commissions where we need great people from around the entire city to be involved, to help shape the future of our city. We are always looking for people. So please apply and get involved. There are lots of volunteer opportunities. I think that we also, in addition to not supporting individuals who take risks and it doesn't work the first time, we don't support and value volunteerism nearly enough. And that is a tremendous thing that people can do to support their city as well. So those are just some ideas.
All right, everybody, round of applause for Bryce.
Thank you all very much.